Welcome to the Joanne Avison podcast. And today I'm inviting you to join me as I dive into the world of fascia and take on the challenge of discovering how its hidden power can actually revolutionize healing journeys. You know, when it comes to healing, there's one often overlooked component that holds incredible significance for every single one of us, and that's the fascia. That intricate web of connective tissue that we learn surrounds every cell, every nerve and organ in our bodies. It actually plays a critical role in maintaining optimal health. And yet, despite its importance and its recognised aspects that we're going to just delve into a little bit today, many of us remain unaware of the profound impact that it has on our overall well-being. And that's partly because fascia is much more than a connective tissue. It's the soup the connective tissue arises from. And for some people, it's part of the whole matrix that's being referred to. And even in the highest echelons of science, there is argument now as to what is fascia, what isn't fascia, or what the term fascia includes or excludes. And it's a very difficult issue because the language can reduce it down to nothing more than a connective tissue matrix, which in itself is much more than kind of discrete parts of connective tissue in the body. And what do I mean by that? Well, for example, underneath your collarbone, there's a little area that's called clavipectoral fascia, which basically means it's under the clavicle and over the pectoralis muscles. Now, clavipec fascia, as we call it in bodywork, can actually feel as if it holds a great deal of pain. And in fact, it's a crucial part of our connective tissue because for so many of us, we have our shoulders slightly forwards, our chin slightly forwards, our chest slightly pulled down just from sitting at our desks or driving our cars or looking after our children or answering questions at college or whatever it is that you're doing. We tend to activate and animate and hold that particular tissue. Now, as a soft tissue specialist, when I'm working on somebody, if I release that tissue really slowly and gently, something happens almost invariably, not always, but mostly, that is much more than changing the structure of a connecting tissue. It brings with it a really subtle realization that that person didn't know their body knew. And they might start off by saying something like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know that hurt. But what they realize is it's not imposing pain because you're working too gently for that. It's actually exposing pain of holding pattern in their tissue that they didn't even realize they were doing. And when they do, something happens. They relax more. There's less tightness or tautness or concern or stress in their body. And although stress can be a good thing, strain isn't necessary. So they undo a strain or an unnecessary strain that gives them more movement in the shoulder. How does that happen? Well, one of the reasons that people don't realize the difference that understanding fascia can make to the healing process is that it's partly because very few people realize that it is also a subtle signaling system and it signals stress in its own way. Not, as I said, that that's necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes going to the gym is putting stress on our bodies to shape ourselves better. But what we've also got to realize is that when we sit at our desks for hours, we hold our phones for hours, that holding pattern is one that the fascia says, well, okay, you want me to stay here? Well, I'll grip this position a little bit more. And it actually can block some of the more subtle signals running through our system. So as a subtle signaling system, it doesn't just mean that the fascia bleeps the alarm. It does much more than that. It's much more intelligent than that. It whispers all sorts of details about your life to you as you're living it. It's what I talked about in the earlier podcast that we did, where we looked at going from burnout to bliss and understanding that those signals are guiding us, are loving us from the inside and giving us what we sometimes call our gut instinct or our intuitive downloads to just remember to us that there are movements that we're making that could be more optimal. What do I mean by that? I mean, fascia whispers all sorts of details to you about your life as you're living it. And many of us believe that healing is simply a matter of repairing damaged tissues or alleviating the symptoms. But many of you will know that after there's been insult and injury, sometimes it's much more of a process going through those symptoms than simply saying, right, come on then, get on with it. Problem over, it's all resolved. You've had the surgery or you've had the stitches, let's get on with it. But it's a process of recovery. And we may not need to be dramatic about it, but we can give ourselves time to go through it. So while we rely heavily, me too, on traditional methods like medication and surgery or physical therapy to address our health issues, sometimes we need to also consider the underlying web of fascia that actually connects it all and resonates with it all, and the role that it plays as a subtle interface between what animates us as a soul or a being into what we express ourselves through, which is the soma or the body. So we may think that we can just fix the surface level problem and the rest will follow. And usually it does, in a manner of speaking. But what if I told you that this approach is kind of scratching the surface of how we heal inside and out and beyond into the mystery, what I think of as the divine mystery that we can meet through our awareness? What if there's a much deeper, more profound level of healing that actually is being neglected? And the fascia is the interface of that. It's all connected to the fascia and how it behaves. It's a really interesting question because for years we've been led to believe that our bodies are composed of separate, discrete parts, each operating independently of the others. This is a very outdated view, and it's led to a really kind of fragmented approach to healing where we focus on individual organs or systems without considering the interconnected and interconnecting web of fascia that binds all these systems together and all these parts into one. In other words, the matrix that they all reside in and communicate through. And this fragmenting approach is what I call divide and conquer. And it was very much the theme of our forefathers during the Industrial Revolution. And if you read any history of our Western culture, particularly in terms of the Renaissance era and the Industrial Revolution, even now, there is some approach to divide and conquer so that I can own all of it. But we divide the body into bits to try and conquer its mystery. And we haven't done that yet. We're still a very long way from it. And we still can't explain some of the things we call miracles that our forefathers would have called miracles and that we still call miracles because we can't make sense of the time it takes to heal. And my dearly beloved colleague John Sharkey calls fascia the tissue of temporality, meaning the tissue of time. And there's some actually gorgeous podcasts in the series that I've just done with Shane McDermott. So make sure you don't miss those because they're all about time and how we can transform our relationship with time and meet this mystery in a different way. And it does accelerate healing, and I do believe it's through the fascia. But to go back to this podcast where we're talking about dividing the body into bits to conquer its mystery. At least we can thank Tom Myers with Anatomy Trains, who gave us bands to consider. You know, the anatomy trains talk about the myofascial meridians, the bands of the front, the back, the sides, the spiral, and the deep body. However, we aren't made of those either. And neither is our fascia organised purely in longitudinal meridians throughout our bodies. It's a lovely idea, and it's an extremely useful stepping stone to get us from bits to bands. But on our journey to bodies, it's time to challenge this conventional wisdom and explore the hidden power of fascia as our wholeness, our whole 365 plus degrees. I know it's 360, but it's more than that in my world. It's our multi-dimensional, omnidimensional awareness, because we are round. We're round things. We don't just have a front, a back, a side, and a middle. We are rounded. We are tubular networks of tubes within tubes. And this understanding of our wholeness is literally revolutionizing our understanding of healing. It has to, because in reality, the fascia matrix, and that might not be the best name for it, is so much more than just a passive connective tissue. It's dynamic, it's intelligent, it's a liquid crystal system, and it plays a crucial role in maintaining not only our overall structural integrity, but in facilitating the structural communication between cells, which influences our proprioception, is influenced by it, and therefore our emotional and mental well-being is coordinated by this, what I call bioemotionally intelligent matrix. It's a resonance field. And it isn't just like a resonance field, it forms a resonance field because of the way we form as embryos. So we literally manage the inside out and the outside in 24/7, regardless of our understanding. It contributes to our awareness within which our understanding can grow. And I think that by neglecting the fascial component of healing, we're ignoring a critical aspect of our bodies, animated as we are, each one of us, by the beings that we are. And that alone has the potential to unlock profound transformations in our health and well-being. I see it every day in my practice. I see it in my movement classrooms. And what excites and thrills me is how much I see this as feedback from the people I work with and teach, and with my colleague Paul Thornley in my Fascial Magic in Action, the stories we get from our clients about the difference they make to their clients because they understand that fascia is the unsung hero of our health. And in my world, that's from soma to soul. Its influence extends far beyond the physical realm, far beyond the physical realm. And I don't see us as only occupying the physical realm, but any of you that listen to my podcast know that. So let's consider that it's the hidden thread that weaves together our entire being, from the tiniest cells to our overarching sense of wholeness that those cells unite in each of us to express. Like we don't even know about it. It's mysterious to us, but it's how we be us. And it's also the in-between of those cells, what's sometimes called the extracellular matrix, which technically means that which surrounds the cells, but the cells are not separate from the matrix they reside in. So inside and outside, and the exquisite permeable cell walls, it's an entire communication system, and it's a very highly organized one. So we're not restricted to that either, because it's the inner to outer cell to cell interface that connects the connections that they swim in. So I hope I'm giving you a sense of the allness of the allness, if you know what I mean. So kind of by exploring the intricate web of fascia and the in-between of that web as much more than a connecting tissue material, maybe we can begin to unravel some of the mysteries of chronic pain, of inflammation, disease, and reveal a deeper understanding of the intricate dance between body, mind, and being, or spirit, if you prefer that term. I think spirit is in addition to all of that. And if we just delve for a minute into the fascinating science of fascia, we can explore some of its more remarkable functions, its role in proprioception and movement, to its influence on our immune response and our emotional regulation and our metabolic regulation, because it also acts as a filter, a filtration system. So it filters between our blood vessels to the rest of our extracellular matrix and through from our gut to our bodies. It's all done by these very subtle systems where chemical responses rely on the structure that they're moving through and the size of the molecules within us in the different areas of our bodies. We can examine the groundbreaking research that's shedding new light on the incredible importance of fascia in maintaining optimal health, and even explore how it connects to various health conditions from chronic pain and fibromyalgia, which means pain in the fibre, which is basically the fascia, to anxiety and depression. And we can even talk about how addressing fascia has been instrumental in transforming countless healing journeys. I have so many stories in my practice, it's crazy. So, take, for example, the remarkable story of Sarah. She suffered from debilitating migraines and chronic fatigue for years. And despite trying every conventional treatment under the sun, she found little relief until she stumbled upon the pioneering difference that a therapist specializing in fascia-based treatment and micromovement medicine, who could help her reanimate her own energy field, not by applying the protocol, but by revealing her profile and working with that in a very subtle way, and activate her subtle body as well as reignite her physical energy. So by reigniting her physical energy through the subtle body, Sarah was able to come to terms with a much more subtle movement process that allowed her body at its own pace to restore its energy. And through a series of very, very gentle targeted sessions, Sarah began to experience such a profound shift in her body, because the restrictions and what we might call the blockages in her fascia slowly began to release. And the movements that she was doing little and often did what I call whispered away to reorganize, that allowed her to reclaim her life in everyday terms. And she found lasting relief from her symptoms and actually returned to running as her favourite pastime. So imagine, just gently and over time, being able to restore the energy field because you understand how to pace it through the fascia, this tissue of time and timing in the body. So as we explore these transformative powers of fascia in healing, it's absolutely impossible to ignore the countless stories of individuals who've experienced profound breakthroughs and transformations just by addressing this critical component of their bodies. And I'm talking about chronic pain sufferers and people who found release and relief through fascial manipulation appropriately for them. And even athletes who've optimized their performance through targeted fascial training, such as we do in Myofascial Magic in Action. The evidence is clear that at every age and stage of fitness, fascia holds very important keys to unlocking a much deeper level of healing and wellness. Now, I'm not saying it replaces the surgical or the medical intervention that might be necessary at a given time. What I am saying is that we can expand to include this in our considerations, whatever methods we use. Because there's also the science that shows that the human body emits light, a very specialized form of what's called biophotonic emissions. And it also transmits sound due to the way we form in something called a pre-stiffened architecture. Another whole story. But basically it forms a resonant field, just like an instrument that's strung or a drum skin that's tensioned across a drum, which is how your diaphragm behaves. And what if the gentle spiritual practice, just what if, try this on for me, of pausing to take a breath. Remember, respiration is respiriting. Just pausing, pause with me now and take a breath and call in the light from the highest source. What if that affects our awareness of the light and invites us to pause and drink it in, rather than just lose ourselves sat at our computers or staring at our cell phones for hours? What if the fascia is actually subtly oriented around circadian and ultradian rhythms? Subjects for another episode, but what if those subtle light rhythms in our day actually talk to us in a way? And that's why they make such a difference to our well-being when we look at the Quantum Biology Collective and the beautiful work of Meredith Oak, which I recommend to everybody. Let's do it now. Let's call in the light. Let's just pause wherever you are, if it's convenient, assuming you're not driving a car. But just take a moment. Just pause and breathe in. And breathe out. And just receive the breath. And imagine the light of grace from the highest source, coming in and clearing anything that doesn't serve you at this time. And let's ask together for that light, having cleared anything that doesn't serve us, to fill us, surround us, bless us, protect us, and enfold us for the highest good of ourselves and all concerned and all those we love and serve, for the highest good. And so it is. Amen. Just that pause. See if you can feel it in the fascia of your whole body and imagine that you've brought in more light through your entire system. And it's as simple as that. Fascia is so much more than just a component of our physical bodies. I believe it's a gateway to optimal health. I think it's a bridge that connects our inner and outer worlds, our history of our past that we've accumulated, and the mystery of the future that we haven't had yet. And I think it gives us access to our sixth sense of proprioception. We know that's what it does. It knows where we are in space and time. And that in itself can become a powerful ally in our journeys towards wholeness, however each one of us are doing them. So whatever the history behind you and whatever the mystery before you, by embracing the hidden power of fascia, perhaps we can revolutionize our understanding of healing and unlock a profound level of transformation that transcends the boundaries of conventional medicine. What if we could actually look to unify and collect our awareness instead of divide and conquer each other's territory? Wouldn't that be amazing? So, as we conclude this little journey into the world of fascia, I really want to invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you had any personal experiences with fascia or its role in healing? So let me know what insights or questions have emerged for you as we've explored this hidden world of fascia together. And if you are eager to dive deeper into this world of holistic healing, be sure to check out the recent video that Paul Thornley and I did in My Fascial Magic in Action, where we explored the fascinating movements you can make to improve the fascia of your hands, because it's so important. They're actually extended from the heart embryologically. So there's a profound connection between the hands feeling alive and our feelings of happiness and worthiness. Isn't that gorgeous? I love that. So rub your hands together, place them together in prayer perhaps, and thank you from me to you. Namaste. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I will see you in the next video.